Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. It's the post-game podcast for the Timberwolves' thrilling Game 4 win. We'll talk Ant's 43 points and Naz Reid's huge fourth quarter, and Chris Finch cooked with his rotations, especially compared to whatever it was JJ Redick was doing. It's all coming next. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. It was a 2-0 Timberwolves weekend. And of course, today's the post-game pod from Sunday's Game 4 win. The Wolves eke out a 3-point victory over the Lakers. And there's a ton to unpack in this game. I want to especially focus, of course, on massive fourth quarters from Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards. Ant had 43 in this game. We'll talk about Chris Finch. I think we could say at this point, at least through 4 games, he's coaching circles around rookie head coach JJ Redick. We'll talk about the rotations. We'll talk about how the Timberwolves defended Luka. A ton to get into today. First, though, a big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere you can listen, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can also watch on YouTube, and you can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Roku and or Amazon Fire TV and watch there as well. And of course, a reminder about the newsletter as well, the daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Subscribe there. You'll get it to your inbox every day, Monday through Friday. All right. The headline, of course, is the Timberwolves win both games in Minnesota. They go back to LA up 3-1. Anthony Edwards has 43 points on 23 shots. He did not attempt a free throw in Game 3, and he attempted 17 free throws in this game. Anthony Edwards was getting downhill early and often. We'll talk a lot about his performance, of course. 12 of 23 from the floor, 5 of 10 outside the arc, 6 assists, 1 turnover. In the games the Wolves have won, I think it's fair to start here. The games the Wolves have won in this series, the 3 games they've won, Ant has combined for 23 assists and only 4 turnovers. 23 assists and only 4 turnovers in the Timberwolves' 3 victories in this series. It was phenomenal. Naz Reid was phenomenal. And in fact, let's do this. Let's start with the big things. I've got like the 3 big things. Let's talk about Ant and Naz in the fourth quarter. And really on both ends of the floor, the Timberwolves did such a fantastic job defending Luka Doncic in this game. And I know Luka had 38. I know he relatively efficient, 38 points on 28 shots, but he had 4 turnovers and only 2 assists. The Wolves made his life very difficult. Down the stretch in this game, there were a couple of key moments that really stand out. And of course, the Wolves were down 10 going to the fourth quarter. And, Anthony Edwards' back-to-back threes that he makes stand out, of course, early in the quarter that make this a 4-point game. But then after that, the Lakers push back. Julius Randle fouls Luka Doncic on a 3-point attempt. It's back to a 7-point game with 5 minutes left. And then Naz hits a shot in the paint. In transition, Naz hits another 3. Then Ant gets fouled on a 3-pointer, and the Wolves go up 1. And then there's like 3 different moments in this fourth quarter where it's like, all right, the Wolves are back. And then the Lakers push right back. The Wolves actually took a 1-point lead with under 4 minutes to play. And then they found themselves back down by 2 with a minute and a half left in the game. This is after the Dante 3-point play. This is after the Naz the Naz 3-pointer that he made off of the Chris Finch play call out of the timeout. Naz hits the trail 3 in transition. The next ATO, they call a pin down. I think DiVincenzo screening so that and Randle passing. Randle passes to Naz Reid, who comes off a DiVincenzo pin down for the 3. That put the Wolves up 1. Clutch, right? Dante gets the and 1. The Wolves are actually up 4 with 2 minutes to play. And then they find themselves down 2 only 40 seconds later after a Dorian Finney-Smith 3, which followed an Austin Reeves 3. So the Wolves are now down 2 and they call timeout. And then after that, LeBron blocks Naz in the lane and the Lakers come down with a minute left up 2. And it's easy to forget with everything else that happened in the fourth quarter. And of course, with the close to the game, the review that we'll talk about, the Wolves were down 2 and the Lakers had the ball with a minute left. But LeBron shoots a somewhat ill-advised, like 28-footer from the left side of the floor. And of course, if he hits it, it's basically a dagger, right? The Wolves are down 5 with 50 seconds left, but he doesn't. Jaden McDaniels gets a big rebound. And we're going to talk more about Jaden. That was a difficult rebound. He elevated, he grabbed it, comes down on the other end. And then on that possession, the Lakers put 2 on the ball on Anthony Edwards. He starts to drive a seam, hits Naz at the nail, right at the free throw line, and Naz takes one hard dribble, turns, and sees the defense sucking up toward him, dumps it off to Jaden, who gets the and one when Austin Reeves hits him in the head, knocking his headband down. Tried to go over the top and block it, but hits Jaden in the head. Sorry, Jaden, not Naz. And Jaden gets the 3-point play, and he makes the clutch free throw to put the Wolves up 1. And then, of course, out of the timeout, the Lakers have to call timeout when Luka trips over Jaden McDaniels' foot. And the Lakers have 1 second to get across the timeline, which is why it still isn't how I would have drawn it up. But the Lakers turn it over, trying to get it over the timeline. Jaden gets a big steal there. And then, we don't need to talk through everything that happened down the stretch, but there's the foul that then gets called on the challenge. Anthony Edwards is fouled by LeBron James. He hits the clutch free throws. Should the Wolves have fouled up 3? I think they should have. Probably when Luka or LeBron has it with 2-3 seconds left on the right wing there, especially because Luka's Luka, LeBron's LeBron, and Austin Reeves is a really good shooter. And those are the 3 guys on that side of the floor. Like the Wolves should have been prepared to foul there. And I know things can go wrong. I'm in the camp of if it makes sense, you can do it safely, do it. And they should have fouled there. They dodge a bullet when Austin Reeves misses the mostly open 3-pointer. But on that final possession was almost kind of a microcosm of just how good Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels were. And we're going to talk about Julius, and we already talked about Ant. And Jaden McDaniels was great. 16-11 is a very good line. He didn't score like he did the last couple nights. He had 30 last time out. And Naz Reid had 12 off the bench and hit those threes we talked about. But those last few possessions, the Jaden and one, the Jaden steal at midcourt, and then, and then also the Naz pass to Jaden that led to the and one. And then on the very last possession of the game, the Lakers are out of timeouts because they called the timeout thinking they were advancing the ball down 1 with under 10 seconds to play. Turns out they lost the timeout, or they still had to use the timeout, but then they didn't have one left because the Wolves won the challenge. Lakers could not advance the ball. Naz pressing up on Luka and essentially trapping him and getting the ball out of it. Not essentially, they did trap Luka and got the ball out of his hands. And then Naz scrambling past LeBron to get something of a contest on Austin Reeves in the corner was such a hustle play from Naz Reid. And the whole sequence was a microcosm of just how good both Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid were. And of course, the headline is Ants 43, as it should be. And Julius Randle continuing to prove playoff naysayers wrong over the course of the first 4 games of the playoffs this year. 25 points, second leading scorer for the Wolves. Jaden 16 and 11 in his defense on Luka, and Naz's 12 points and perfect fourth quarter shooting once again. I believe he's perfect in the fourth quarter in the series, if I'm not mistaken, from the field. Those are equally as big of stories for Minnesota. Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels were phenomenal in this game. That to me is such a huge headline from this one. And along with that, Anthony Edwards, we'll talk in depth a little bit more about his game. But down the stretch, he played the whole fourth quarter. I talked already about his threes early in the quarter. Remember, Wolves are down 10. He makes 2 threes in the first minute of the quarter. They're barely done playing the Julius Randle taped interview from the break on the TNT broadcast, and Ant's already made 2 threes. Now Sanders Duran and Austin Reeves threes. So the Wolves are still down 7. And then Ant, he hit that little step through he likes to do right around the free throw line, where he kind of balances on one leg, completely decelerates, and hits the step through. And then he hits a 3 the following possession. I think there's only one bad Anthony Edwards shot, and of course he got himself into a little bit of trouble on the play that was ultimately overturned and remained Wolves' ball, or a foul was called, and then Ant got the free throws. But then Ant also made all of his free throws in the fourth quarter, all 3 when he was fouled on the 3-point attempt, and both free throws that put them up 3 at the end of the game, which was obviously huge. A massive fourth quarter for Anthony Edwards, and he's been the best player in this series, full stop. No question about it. Anthony Edwards has been the best player in this series. I want to talk about the Wolves' defense on Luka, the guy who was supposed to be the best player in this series. I want to talk about what the Wolves have done to switch up their coverage a little bit on him. We'll talk quite a bit also about the coaching. Well, I guess that's related, the way the Wolves have guarded Luka and the way that the Lakers have attempted to guard Anthony Edwards. We'll talk about all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are here. There's no better time to turn your sports knowledge into real cash with Prize Picks, the top destination for daily fantasy action. Prize Picks makes it simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even mix and match players across basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Plenty of options to play this week on Prize Picks. Like, for instance, you could take Anthony Edwards more than 25 points or whatever that number is going to be for Wednesday night's game 5 in LA. You might want to take Anthony Edwards for more than 4 assists. That certainly would make a lot of sense. The Wild are still playing hockey as well, so maybe check out what they're up to and take more goals for Kaprizov. If that's your speed, if you're paying attention to both the Wild and the Wolves. Download the app today, and you can use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. So we talked about the fourth quarter and those sequences. I just think this is one of those, I typically don't go blow by blow, and I didn't like fully for the fourth quarter, but this was like 3 quarters in one, or 3 different like chunks. I rewatched the whole fourth quarter, and you just forget what a roller coaster it was. And it was such good action back and forth. And the things that stood out to me are all the things I already listed. And then the other thing was how the Timberwolves defended Luka Doncic. They came into the fourth quarter. Remember, the end of the third is when Rudy Gobert gets called for the flagrant 1 foul against LeBron. Rudy came in for like the last minute of the third quarter or so. And then they take him out to start the fourth. And the fourth quarter, the lineup to start the fourth quarter from Chris Finch was the starters minus Rudy plus Naz Reid. Plus Dante DiVincenzo. So no Naz, no Rudy on the floor. And Randle's playing the 5. Like Randle, McDaniels are your front court. I'm sorry. Yeah. No Naz, no Rudy. I was right. So Julius Randle is basically your 5. So you got Randle, McDaniels in the front court. And the Lakers, of course, are playing small. Jackson Hayes played 4 minutes to start the game, got a technical, never saw the floor again. Of course, and we'll talk more about Redick. But in case you missed it, the Lakers played the entire second half with the same 5 guys. It's never happened in the play-by-play tracking era. So there's that. The Wolves knew they could get away with playing small, and they were down 10, so they needed offense. So it made sense. Rudy came back in for a stretch in the fourth quarter, and I thought was effective. He had a couple of instances where he got offensive rebounds or back taps that then led to fouls. Like there was one he got like right away when he came back in the game after a shot clock violation on the Lakers, which Rudy helped force. He gets a rebound off of Julius Randle, missed 3, and gets fouled by Austin Reeves. And then that ends up leading to a side out for the Wolves and an Anthony Edwards made jumper. There were multiple possessions in that game where Rudy indirectly, or I guess in some cases directly, led to additional possessions for Minnesota. I know he's not scoring. I know he missed a couple bunnies at the rim. He had 7 offensive rebounds in this game. And that was a good example of one that ended up leading to a bucket. So those Rudy minutes were valuable, even though he ended up not playing that much in the fourth quarter. And this wasn't a case of him being played off the floor. This was a case of the Timberwolves saying, look, we need offense. The Lakers are small. We have a really good, quote unquote, small ball 5 in Naz Reid. And by that, I mean like a really dynamic stretch 5 that's not even, doesn't play like a center at all, but can if he needs to. He can function as however you need Naz Reid to function. So, I mean, Rudy played like 5 minutes in the middle of the fourth quarter, and that was it. And then they put Naz Reid back out on the floor, and they closed basically with more than happy to switch Naz onto Luka. And I talked at the beginning of the series, I think I even mentioned this in the crossover with the Kamenetsky brothers a week and a half ago. Naz Reid had some good possessions on tape last year in the playoffs in the conference finals against Luka Doncic. Naz, you don't want it every time down the floor, but he can more than hold his own in space. And he's like not that much bigger than Luka. Like they're similar size. He's got incredible length. Naz has really worked at his defense over the last few years, and Wolves fans know this. Like he did a really, really good job when switched on to Luka. And the Wolves also mixed up their coverages over the course of the game. To this point in the series, the Wolves rarely have blitzed Luka Doncic. And I understand why. Luka can shoot over double teams. He's such a good passer. He's crafty enough to split double teams. And the Wolves did it a couple times late in the first half when it was a late double where they would essentially trap him. Like Dante got one steal off him, and then I think maybe Anthony Edwards got a steal off of Luka. No, it was Rudy who had a late double, and Luka just, I think, lost the ball. I think he brought the ball up and it like hit Rudy's hip or something and bounced away. But Luka, a couple different times, the late trap really messed him up. And it wasn't something the Wolves had done much of, and so he wasn't expecting it. And they also didn't do it throughout the game. It was really kind of opportunistic from Minnesota when they did that. And by the way, that was something I said before the series. I thought if the Wolves would try and play Austin Reeves straight up and double LeBron James or Luka sparingly, just here and there to try and generate, because both those guys can be turnover prone. And they're both more likely to turn it over in those situations than Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is more looking for his own shot, more often than not. LeBron and Luka will try and create for others as well. And you can kind of, I don't say trick. They're obviously two of the smartest basketball players of this generation and ever, certainly in the case of LeBron, that you could get them to make mistakes trying to overpass or trying to make the heroic pass, late doubles, traps, stuff like that. And the Wolves did that in the first half, I thought, to pretty good success. And then in the second half, they actually straight up blitzed Luka a couple of times. They doubled him on the perimeter. And then they had Naz just like on the switch, just aggressively, essentially like a one-man blitz to try and push Luka out further and further and further. And he did exactly that. And Naz just did such a good job with it. And Jaden, especially in the first half, was on Luka a lot. Luka made some impossible shots. Julius Randle, once again, was very physical with him. I think maybe the last time he was on an island with him was that foul in the 3-point attempt with like 5 minutes to go in the game that pushed this back to a 7-point Lakers lead. It's a bad foul from Julius Randle. But the differences between Jaden McDaniel's length and all defensive team, abilities, to Naz Reid, who's somewhere in between, and then Julius Randle, who's all brute strength and physicality, throwing these different looks at Luka, and then the sporadic double teams and the traps and just some of those different looks that they're giving him was really, really smart. And it was a great plan by the coaching staff, by Chris Finch and his staff, and then it was a great execution by all the players on the floor for Minnesota. I mean, like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker hasn't played as many minutes. He only played 12 in this game. But when he was matched up on him, he did well. Dante was physical with him when he got the opportunity. He's obviously too small to guard Luka for any stretch, significant stretch of time. But I mean, DiVincenzo was solid when he was on him. By the way, Dante had 5 steals in this game. Minnesota had 8 steals as a team, and Dante DiVincenzo had 5 of them. So I think kind of that bulldog mentality from Dante, mix that in with, everything I already mentioned. Those are all different styles of one-on-one defense. And then you mix in some of the other strategy and stuff that they did in terms of the trapping. And you have a pretty good recipe for success. Related to that, whatever JJ Redick thought he was doing with playing the same 5 guys the entire second half, it just seems goofy. It was the second game in under 48 hours. Like, they just played Friday night. This is a Sunday matinee. I know they have 2 days off after this. I know it's their playoff lives that they're fighting for, basically. But now you literally are, and you just played a 40-year-old LeBron James 46 minutes and Luka being Luka 46 minutes. I just don't understand that. Like, this felt like a game. I know they thought they needed offense, but like, they were up 10 going to the fourth quarter. Why not steal some rest for Luka? Why not steal some less rest for LeBron? Put Jared Vanderbilt out there to try and get under the Wolves' skin. Like, you're up 10, you would think you'd be okay with putting some additional defense out there, some switchability with Jared Vanderbilt, and play the whole fourth quarter. And we saw last year, this eventually caught up to the Wolves in the conference finals. Ant was pretty gassed at that point. Here's hoping that a year later, Ant, learned, and that was something we heard last year almost to a player in exit interviews and stuff, is that these guys are like, oh man, we used to, like, we didn't make the playoffs, then we lose in the first round. Now we go to the conference finals. We see what a difference it makes conditioning wise and the length of the season. And now they know, hopefully that, I'm thinking ahead a couple rounds, but hopefully now that's not going to be an issue because the Wolves have been to the conference finals and they know what that's going to be like from a getting your body ready standpoint. But obviously you got to win in this round. And that's what the Lakers were thinking. I just think that was a big miss from JJ Redick. And I don't think he admitted that post game. He just said it wasn't the plan originally to play those guys as much as he did. And the Lakers didn't do anything creative against Anthony Edwards. They started to, they put 2 on the ball, and I thought they were a little more aggressive with it than they were the last couple of games when they did kind of that pseudo zone thing. They were a little more aggressive with the trapping. And what did Anthony Edwards do? Well, he split it a bunch. He got 17 free throw attempts, 6 assists to 1 turnover. Really smart decision-making once again from Anthony Edwards. It's been a phenomenal series, a masterclass in how to handle pressure from Anthony Edwards in this series. And frankly, the way that Chris Finch, I want to touch a little more on how Chris Finch rotated players. I did talk about that related to the fourth quarter, but talk about the Wolves rotation and also the Mike Conley piece. And I think one of the areas in which he's clearly outcoached JJ Redick. We'll do that. We'll close with individual studs and duds. It's all coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here now, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting extremely easy, whether it's picking your favorite team. Maybe you're picking the Wolves on Wednesday for Game 5, or maybe you're just diving into player props. Right now, the Game 5 on Wednesday, believe it or not, the Lakers opened at FanDuel as 7.5-point favorites, which is a lot. I think they were 5.5-point favorites in Game 2, and then maybe 3.5 at Game 3 in LA. That, of course, the Wolves ended up. It would have been Game 2 in LA that they were 3.5-point favorites. Yeah. Anyway, opening at 7.5-point favorites. I mean, that seems crazy to me. We'll talk more about that later in the week. You might just go prop bets, 3-pointer, steals, assists. It's all there. Plus, after the game tips off, any game, you could even combine your live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win it big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right. Quick kudos to Chris Finch for how he's managed the Timberwolves rotation. He stole 3 minutes with TJ Shannon at the end of the first quarter, I believe it was. Dante was in some quick foul trouble. I believe Naz picked up a couple of quick fouls, or at least one quick foul early in this game. And TJ Shannon came in, played 3 minutes, got 4 rebounds, including an offensive rebound, had an assist, missed 1 bucket inside after his offensive rebound. Was a +2 in 3 minutes. That was a solid stretch for TJ Shannon. He's played in 2 of the 4 games. He's clearly the 9th man in the rotation as of now over Jaylen Clark. And I said this the other day, I don't know, Thursday or Friday last week. I think that's the right call. I think that his size and his style of play matches the series a little bit more. I think, if it ends up being Houston or Golden State, honestly, either one of them in the second round, if the Wolves were to advance, Jaylen Clark is just as good of a fit, maybe a slightly better fit than TJ Shannon, because you're going to want a little bit more of that kind of solid half-court defense. And obviously, we've got plenty of time to get into that. But either one of those guys could make the case for that. TJ Shannon is going to be a little bit more of your breakneck speed, wreak havoc in the open floor, dunk on somebody in transition, hit the trail 3. Like Jaylen is more of a solid half-court lockdown defender with not as much size or physicality. I shouldn't say physicality, not as much size as TJ Shannon. Either way, I thought that was really smart from Chris Finch. I think the way he's handled Rudy, picking his spots, has made sense. I think I have been really impressed with not falling in love with Nickeil Alexander-Walker minutes. I mean, we could go back and look at what he did last year in the playoffs, and of course, it's always peaks and valleys. I shouldn't say that. Nickeil's a little more consistent than peaks and valleys, but I know Chris Finch loves Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but he only played 12 minutes in this game, and I think it was the right move. Nickeil was fine. But Dante was really good, and I know he hasn't shot the ball well in this series, but his aggressiveness defensively, he had that big and one late. I thought he played great. Mike Conley played well. He missed all 4 of his 3-point attempts. He hit 1 tough layup in the, I think, second quarter. That was a big shot. That was a tough shot that he made. And I thought overall played pretty well as well. Also, I think Chris Finch has pushed the right buttons and pulled the right levers in terms of the rotation. And I mentioned kind of in passing the Naz Reid ATO, where he called the play for Naz to shoot the 3 from the top of the key just a couple possessions after he'd hit the trail 3 in transition from a similar spot on the floor. That is knowing your players, knowing who, it is the hot hand, even though you made 1 shot before that, but that's Naz's shot. And of course the Lakers are expecting everything to be drawn up for Anthony Edwards. That was such a smart out of bounds play. run by Chris Finch, and then also the use of the challenges. Impeccable. I believe Chris Finch is 5 for 5 over the last 3 games in challenges. I know he is, actually. I don't remember what he was in game 1, if he challenged one at all. But Chris Finch and the staff, obviously the second row behind the bench, the guys at the tablets, like really outstanding job in using challenges. And of course, the Lakers lost theirs early, which, by the way, mini soapbox. The challenge the Lakers, the play the Lakers challenged the Austin Reeves, Rudy Gobert collision, that was an absurd challenge. Rudy Gobert was slipping the screen. He wasn't setting a moving screen, and that's why I believe it was Josh Timmon, the crew chief, when he made the announcement, said that Rudy paused and then, paused, and Austin Reeves had the opportunity to avoid the contact and didn't. That's 100% right. It's called slipping a screen. That's exactly what Rudy was doing. He was faking setting the screen and slipping it, and Austin Reeves created that contact. Rudy Gobert was turning to run the other direction to slip the screen. It's 100% the right call and a ridiculous challenge, especially that early in the game. I think it would have been the third foul on Austin Reeves, so I guess I understand from that perspective, but they weren't going to win that challenge. And I don't know why Richard Jefferson was so shocked on the broadcast. I mean, I have an idea because he seemed to be shocked at a lot of things the last couple broadcasts that ESPN has had with the Wolves and Lakers. But anyway, that was all, this is Chris Finch and his staff out coaching the Lakers and their staff. That's just what a lot of this has been. Real quick, studs and duds. Of course, Anthony Edwards, 43 points on 23 shots, 5 of 10 on threes, 14 to 17 at the line. We're going to take a half step back on tomorrow's show and talk about his series to this point. Already rattled off 23 assists to 4 turnovers in the 3 games the Wolves have won. Just phenomenal. 6 assists to 1 turnover in this game. 9 rebounds. Was there for his team in the fourth quarter. Just an awesome Anthony Edwards performance. I think I gotta go Jaden. 16 points on 11 shots, 2 of 3 on threes. That's an efficient Jaden McDaniels performance. 11 rebounds. He led the team in rebounds. And that defensive rebound after the LeBron missed 3 with 55 seconds left was such a big rebound, and it was easily glossed over. Really nice play. The and one off the pass from Naz in the final couple minutes. The steal after the Lakers inbounds play with under a minute to play. All those moments were big, but he was good throughout this game. The defense on Luka was good. So Ant, Jaden. The third one, I'm going to split it. I'm going to cheat between Naz Reid and Julius Randle. Naz was phenomenal in the fourth quarter, and I thought his defense on Luka, when given the opportunity prior to that, was good too. The first half was a lot quieter. Julius Randle was solid throughout. He had a couple of big moments, the offensive rebound, and then the putback on the left-handed side of the glass, going underneath the bucket. He had a couple of big threes in this game, a couple of big pump-up-the-crowd moments, really nice Julius Randle performance. That's another one we could take a half step back and talk more about this week here with a couple of days to breathe before game 5. But Julius had 25 and 7, 3 assists and a steal in this game, 3 of 8 on threes, which was very nice to see. And the Naz we talked about a lot already, but 12 points, 4 of 7 shooting, 2 of 4 on threes, hit those 2 big threes in the fourth quarter, 4 boards, 2 assists. You'd like to see a little more on the glass from Naz overall, especially if they're not going to play Rudy as much. But the Wolves are still +8 on the glass. They had 18 offensive rebounds in this game, 7 by Rudy Gobert and 4 by Anthony Edwards. 4 offensive rebounds by Anthony Edwards in this game. And again, this is something else we could talk more about on tomorrow's show, Tuesday's show, or Wednesday's show. Wolves again win points in the paint by quite a bit. They again win fast break points by quite a bit. And they again are much more efficient, much more productive with scoring off of Lakers turnovers than LA was off of Wolves turnovers. So again, something we talked about before the series, pushing in transition, being opportunistic with any chance they have to run. The Wolves have done exactly that. So all that is true in this one. I don't have any duds. Mike was fine. Rudy was fine. Neither one of them was great, but neither one of them played really all that poorly, I don't think. I mean, you just had the Wolves had 2 guys play over 40 minutes. They only had 1 guy play. So they only had 3 guys that played more than 30. Actually, only 3 guys played more than 30 minutes, period. 3 guys played more than 30. They had 4 guys that played between 20 and 29 minutes. And the Lakers had 4 guys that played 41 or more minutes. Austin Reeves played 35. And then they had 4 guys that played less than 13 minutes of this game. Really masterful job by Chris Finch and the coaching staff when it comes to the minutes split and the Wolves rotation. All right. So lots to talk about still this week. We got shows tomorrow and Wednesday. Of course, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. The Wolves are back in LA to take on the Lakers. That's a TNT game. We'll, of course, have a lot in the next couple days to prep for that. In the event the Wolves win Wednesday, we'll be looking ahead to whatever the next series is. We'll, of course, play in a crossover with either Clippers or Warriors, and go back and watch more of that series to give a pretty good preview of what that was going to look like. Don't want to count the chickens before they hatch. Plenty to do first, which is hopefully get a win in LA on Wednesday night. Talk about that over the next couple days. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. You can also follow on X at Locked On T-Wolves and also at Beecken with 2 B's, 2 E's, CKEN. And a reminder, during the playoffs right now, you can make your second listen Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night, until an NBA champion is crowned, like 6 weeks from now? Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. A reminder about the daily newsletter as well. Go to LockedOnDaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter. You get it in your inbox every day, Monday through Friday. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.